welcome to the MadTrio podcast. This week we have the California Pariah, Jonathan Charney, James, the Fat Man, Stevens, hello, and Ryan, it hurts, Preston.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't hurt me more.
That's a lie. Anyways, so if I say CME, do you know what I'm talking about, John?
CME?
Yeah.
It sounds super familiar, but I can't place it.
Ryan?
DME or DMT?
CME.
You've been listening to Joe Rogan too much.
So every time I watch something, and I get interested by it because there's a lot of new things coming up in astronomy and astrophysics. And one of the things that every time I listen to it and hear the science behind it and just how much it could actually do damage-wise, coronal mass ejections are a scary thought.
Oh, okay.
What is that?
Ryan knows what it is.
Was it a NASA thing?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Coronal mass ejection.
Okay, I have no idea what it is.
That
It's like a
is,
solar flare.
it's a significant release of plasma from the surface of the sun.
Okay, yes.
And it's launched at us from solar flares.
And it causes issue with the satellites and a lot of things.
But if they
And
hit
you could
us,
also just cook the earth.
yeah, exactly. And so, but
Bacon.
it's one of those that they've gotten to the point where they're better at being able to predict it. But since 2012, we have been in one of the active periods of the sun, which the sun has two phases that they have been able to map. But anyways, that is some freaky ass shit if you really think about it.
Yeah, I've had to put that and super volcanoes the fuck out of my mind to be able to sleep.
Well, considering Yellowstone is a super volcano.
And California's on the Ring of Fire.
Point, you know what I mean? Luckily, we're close because of a global scale. Well, then be, cut out, right? Although we're probably too far away. We'll get the nuclear winter. We'll all
actually, I was going to say this part of California, but actually you're closer to being in the actual fallout area than where John and I are, where we would actually probably feel the heat from it.
What state's Yellowstone in?
Isn't it Wyoming?
It's in like 3 states, I think.
I
think Yellowstone.
Yeah, it's right. The volcano is.
Yeah, the volcano actually covers like.
No, thankfully, if it causes any major issues, we can have people drill to the center of the Earth and set nukes off to start the planet spinning again.
Yeah. Now the thing is that it's in Wyoming, but I think it covers the super volcano actually covers 3 states. Like
it's a massive volcano. I think that the worst thing that would happen with a solar flare, besides cooking the planet, was it'd destroy the technology. Like they'd cause a lot of issues because how much stuff relies on GPS.
The last time we actually had a coronal mass ejection actually hit the Earth, it was like in the 1850s, and the only thing going on was the telegraph wire, and that caused fires in like 3 different states because of it just oversparking. But now that's not what freaks me out, is the fact that the polarity of the Earth, like depending on how the wave actually hits us, it can be deflected by us by the magnetic field of the Earth, or if it hits our poles at the exact way, it gets absorbed rather than pushed away.
By the way, doesn't coronal mass ejection sound like one of those gimmick drinks you get at the bar? You know, the ones like you knock that small little shot glass into the thing of beer.
Yeah.
Unlike Ryan, I've never actually been worried about solar flares. I'm more worried about, like, I don't know, getting ran into commuting to work, getting carjacked.
It is one of those things where why worry about the easy uncontrollable,
Yeah, I mean, it's a guy who's been carjacked before. It's like that's completely uncontrollable. I was thinking James and I would be like those ghouls in Fallout that we'd be living 1,000 years. Ryan would be long gone.
Yeah. So actually, the Yellowstone super volcano covers 10 states.
Wow.
Where the actual ground mass would actually be the volcano and part of Canada.
Damn.
So that's how big it is, John.
Ooh.
Yeah. It is humongous.
So where did you find that at? Read the URL.
Oh gosh, it's gonna be a long. It's just under the thing of the size of the caldera.
So I found
for Yellowstone.
Yeah, it's 10 states and part of Canada.
So I ran into a cigarette ad, and this is an old cigarette ad.
Oh, okay.
I love ads, especially stuff you can't do nowadays. So this is what it says. It says, to keep a slender figure no one can deny, reach for a lucky strike instead of a sweet. And the comment below, it says, it's toasted. No throat irritation, no cough.
Huh.
Wow.
And the picture of it is a woman that looks like she's either in her brassiere or she's in like a tank top, and she's, curly hair, cheeks are flushed, it's the sexy pose of, like the 1940s sexy pose. It just made me laugh because allegedly one of my grandmothers started smoking to lose weight, and she was never able to kick the habit.
To lose weight.
It wasn't uncommon, actually.
I'm just kind of thinking that's one I didn't hear of.
I've heard through the grapevine too that, and I don't know if this was doctors, but I've heard people say it, that some women used to smoke cigarettes when they were pregnant to reduce the size of the child.
Yeah.
So instead of having like a 9-pound baby, they would, smoke, which.
Yeah, doctors actually used to tell pregnant women to start smoking.
Whoa.
Once they became pregnant, because it was one of those things that they believed was a healthy habit, I guess. I don't know.
Well, like there's on the episode, if you listen to the radio show of Dragnet, there's a lot of radio advertisements on it for cigarettes, for Fatima. One of my favorite ones that says, does not affect, and this said doctors, or what was it? There's been some sort of scientific study and found it didn't affect ears, nose, throat, and other accessory organs. And every time I've heard that, I said, what the hell is an accessory? It's not like when I was born to say, hey, doc, give me the organ that lets me process alcohol,
It's
blah,
your
blah,
appendix.
It just always made me laugh. It's like accessory organs. What the hell? I mean,
yeah, it's that second lung you have. You only really need one.
Or the second kidney.
Yeah.
It just always made me laugh. How about tonsils, since I used to remove those?
So you don't have any ads for Laramie cigarettes?
No.
Oh.
So
I knew Ryan would catch that one.
How do you feel, boy? I feel like a cigarette. Great. What's your brand? Anything slim.
So I
love that part.
I found an article that was that's on Digital Trends from January 15, 2017. I'm not going to really go.
You got to repeat that. Ryan and I were laughing at some Simpsons references.
I found an article from January 15, 2017. So it's like 3 years ago, from Digital Trends.
Okay.
So I'm not really going to dig deep down in the article, just kind of glance over the headline. Is your smartphone listening to you? Everything you say. We asked the experts. Smartphone ownership is an all-time high, and microphones are an essential hardware feature on every phone. Now, what does it mean for you? For your privacy. There is no longer just used for calls. Voice-controlled intelligent assistants like Apple Siri, Google Assistant, and Microsoft Cortana are commonplace on modern smartphones. We use them to search for answers, set reminders, etc. But we do know that when they are listening, what happens for audio when they record. Now, the article later on talks about like television will send out like an audible, like a non-audible tone. So it's under a certain kilohertz, and apparently the phones can actually pick that up, and then that way the who's ever needs, like the advertisers, can actually pinpoint who you are because of your cell phone.
So it's not NSA.
Here the question.
The Illuminati.
It's the advertisers. It's fucking Google. But the question is the fact that you think that's an invasion of privacy if they're using it to pinpoint who you are through your cell phone, because it's easy to track, even if they're have a partnership with AT&T or whoever makes your the operating system, Apple, whether it's Android, etc. What do you guys think? I kind of find it creepy.
Yeah, It's weird, man. I've got a buddy who we were talking about this recently. He was telling me he's got I think it's got Alexa. It is not the Alexa Home thing, you know.
Amazon,
and he always is playing, music just around the house as they're cleaning up or just hanging around. He's got music going on in the background, and he's talking to his wife, and he says that he's noticed that when he says I like, I want, or I need, the volume on the TV music turns down.
Whoa.
Like, that's fucking creepy.
So
and creepy not in just like a Skynet fucking conspiracy way, although I am that guy. Creepy in just the I hate that everything is tuned so specifically to what the internet thinks you are, what it thinks you're into. Like, it's almost robbing me of this stumble across kind of thing that I fell in love with about the internet. One of my favorite websites was literally called Stumble Upon, and it was just a bunch of random shit. Hey, here's a thing that you might think is cool. So I have no reason to think that you think this is cool, but check it out.
Here's the exact part of the article. I didn't find it when I was telling you, but it says last year the CDT alerted the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, to a technology called Silver Push. It used audible beacons to track your activities across your devices. Your TV emits a tone during a commercial break, a tone that's inaudible to you, but your phone is listening for. Now they can link the TV and the phone as belonging to the same person. Advertisers have developed a lot of techniques for device matching because the more accurately they can track your activities, the easier it is for them to advertise to you. The reason I brought this up, because besides the fact of watching an ungodly amount of sci-fi movies, and this sets off every sort of dystopian 1984-ish future, it just creeps me the fuck out.
Oh, see, this doesn't bother me. Mostly because I don't have a smart-ass TV that's going to be doing that. And on top of that, I don't really use those keywords very often.
Well, no, see, what this is saying is you could be watching something on television, and you don't have to have a smart TV. So what they're saying is if you're watching, and it could be used on anything, regular TV, Netflix, etc., that during a break or something, the tone is built into the commercial itself, and your smartphone, which is somewhere in your room, picks up the tone. Yes.
Yeah. What hurts?
Netflix doesn't have commercials.
It might. What'd you say, Ryan?
What hertz did you say that was running at?
It didn't say the hertz. That's the part.
Of course, they're not going to tell you the hertz. That's proprietary information, Ryan.
It's got to be. And it's so.
There's certain things. Of course, our hearing is only audible to a certain between a certain hertz range. Below that, what's referred to as infrasound. Is actually responsible for a lot of not ghost sightings, I guess, ghost encounters,
Cancer,
if you will. It's basically responsible for that. There's somebody in the room with me feeling.
Oh yeah, we talked about that
at one time. Just as an unintended consequence, there's going to be a lot more ghost reporting, or friends telling their other friends, like, hey, man, I think that's fucking poltergeist or shit.
So the human
fucking Alexa trying to listen to you.
So the human hearing range is between 20 to 20,000 hertz.
Yeah, so usually about 18 hertz is where that kind of resonance spot is. But, of course, anything below 20 hertz is considered infrasound.
Ryan, if you start bleeding from your ears and nose, the TV's listening.
That's pretty much still my requirement for am I injured? Am I bleeding from the ears?
I don't own any smart speaker. I don't own Alexa. I don't even have Google Assistant because I always kind of find them creepy. And I also, for me, I don't know if I need that sort of. I don't even know if I've called it a luxury. I think it's just like sheer laziness. I don't have a use for it or a need.
Yeah, it is laziness, and I don't care because of laziness. I care, I suppose, in just a cosmic sense of like, hey, this is probably not a good thing in the long run. But it's not stopping me from, I don't put tape on all my TVs or my laptops or anything like that.
I'm
not super paranoid about it, but it is irritating. Like my YouTube thing gets weirdly curated. You know what I mean? God forbid you watch one fucking bullfighting video or something, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, you're the biggest bullfighting fan in the world, right? Here's everything you've never seen about bullfighting.
Okay, I got a great example of this. So I ran across this YouTube video of this English voice coach, and she was watching. It was a song from Metallica's Binge and Purge era, and I don't remember the name of the song, but I was curious to see what she said. And the song wasn't really particularly, like, I like the song, but it's nothing amazing. And you just hear her react to it for the first time. And then all of a sudden, my YouTube feed is getting, this guy watches Metallica, this reacts to Metallica. It's just like, okay, I just wanted to watch the one, and it's never the song like I would actually love to see them react to. It's never one or And Justice for All. It's never into the...
It's assuming that if I liked this video, I wouldn't have sought out more of these.
See, that's why I don't like anything on YouTube.
It takes the no, you don't have to like it. You just have to watch it, dude.
Oh, I know.
So I watch.
It takes the place of things that you would have like that you already do. Like, let's say I'm used to watching a certain type of video, and I watch another one. That other one will take the place of the original, so I'm not seeing those ones that I usually do that I like.
Good point.
I'm seeing the other ones, and
so I watch quite a bit of YouTube, whether it's looking up how-tos, whether it's just watching entertainment. I like YouTube, but it does some weird things. Like, there's channels I subscribe to. One of the ones I subscribe to is Louder with Crowder. I find him interesting. Not super funny, but I find his point of view interesting. And so even though I'm subscribed to him, I hit that stupid little bell button. By the way, subscribe to MadTrio Podcast. Hit the bell button. That way you're alerted when we upload a new episode. Like, you don't see shit when it pops up in your feed. I don't even get alerted half the time.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that bothers me. It's like, if I'm willingly hit the subscribe button and I hit that stupid bell button, notify me when something comes up, and I don't always get notifications. I subscribe to two political things because I find their point of views interesting. There's another one called Timcast where he reacts, and I find that interesting. But even some of the channels, there's a channel called My Self-Reliance I really like. This guy's somewhere in Canada, and he made his own log cabin from scratch. It's super fun to listen to. I don't get notifications from him either, and he's not... he's not even a U.S. citizen. It's not political. It's just this dude doing his own thing in the woods of Canada somewhere.
So you think they do it because of political reasoning?
The stuff that gets flagged on YouTube is nutty. They've been policing just as bad as Facebook has. Well, for what gets pulled off due to violating their nonsense terms and conditions.
It does seem it does seem on YouTube that if you're conservative, you get pulled more. Now, that could be for a couple of different reasons. That could be because of Google. I'm not 100% sure if I'm willing to believe that, but anything's possible. What I think it is more younger people watch YouTube, and if they see a video with a conservative, I think they flag it. And then their system, you flag it, the more flags you get, the more readily to pull something. I think that's what that is.
Not even just narrowing it to the political spectrum. Like, there's a handful of gun channels that I watch. Most of them are just like hilarious. You know what I mean? They're just fun. It's like, how many sheets of paper can this bullet go through kind of stuff.
I hate to break it to you, but that actually gets pulled into the political conversation. Because that's my point. Is there's nothing that's
political about the video one way or another, other than
the guy's using a gun.
You can tell obviously the person is a Second Amendment fan. But you cannot tell via the channel or via the personality whether this person leans conservative or liberal.
By the way,
just due to the good-natured version of a lot of these things, but even when they're not like centered around like guns for a particular episode of a channel or a show or something that they do, they get flagged for inappropriate content, just sort of knee-jerk.
By the way, to comment a little bit, I want to give a shout out to the Pink Pistols. They're a gay gun rights organization, to say how Second Amendment fans don't have to be conservative or liberal. I just want to shout that out because from what I've heard, they're a great group of folks. Sorry, I just wanted to give that a point, because anytime somebody brings up the gun rights, everybody automatically assumes everybody's conservative, or they're this way or they're that way. Just to say there's a huge spectrum of people who like firearms, and from every diversity who are a big fan of it. That's one of the reasons it pisses me off.
Well, that's my whole rallying cry. You know what I mean? Like I am absolutely not a conservative. I wouldn't consider myself a liberal either, but I'm way liberal leaning. You know, but the liberals have started to kind of eat their own tail, at least the live ones. So I've got to kind of back away from them.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about far as politically, I'm registered as a libertarian, mainly because that libertarian seems to be more the conservative catch-all. I'm not an independent, but I mean, just on the political side. But YouTube, I just don't like what they do. Because my whole thought is they should be a platform, and now it seems like they're being a little bit too proactive and removing anything they consider extreme. The problem,
that's the same thing that happened with Facebook and Twitter.
Anything that doesn't line up with their particular line of thinking, which is super fucking dangerous.
100%.
Because later on down the road, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 100 years from now, what if it's you, and the other side is using your tactics against you, silencing your point of view, systematically like that? It sets a real bad precedent.
Oh, I did want to say something real quick. If you're LGBT and you're curious about Pink Pistols, go to pinkpistols.org. I always like trying to help people support their Second Amendment. The thing you mentioned that I'm curious about what's going to happen, and try to stay away as politics as far as possible. So just to warn you, is this thing with Trump. Now, nothing specific, but I am wondering what happens if the conservatives end up turning it up, like doing the same thing to a Democratic president and really ramp it up, like they're doing now. No matter what you think about Trump, I find it interesting, because he seems to be the type of person that if you don't feed the troll, he won't come out under the bridge. And whether you like the guy, he is a master level troll. You
know what? All the other party and whatever other party that turns out to be needs to do, one party needs to just back up and say, hey, you know what? We're sorry. Let's just talk. And then stop the rhetoric, stop all the nonsense. They will gain so much clout with the American people of just saying, hey, you know what? We're gonna stop the nonsense, name calling, the crazy things.
You know what I'd love to see?
The crazy things.
I'd love to see, and I don't know if it would work. Excuse me. I'd love for Trump to be found innocent on this recent thing. I'd loved him to do a broadcast the nation and say, because of the level of rhetoric, blah, 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 that's happening, I am stepping down from running as nomination. That
won't happen.
It won't happen because Trump's not the right person for it. But I would love to see something Ryan says, where, somebody comes and says, I think it's time that we as a nation need to unite, yada, yada, yada. Whether it'll happen or not, I've heard people on the right talk about why we're so divided. I actually haven't heard a lot of people on the left talk about it. And I've actually sought it out. A lot of people that I've heard on the right side are saying because of the lack of religious people. Religion brings a set of ideals, brings a group experience. That's the main thing I've heard. I think it's fascinating. I'm hoping that politics get better. But just if y'all aren't a history fans, this isn't uncommon. This is kind of stereotypical American politics. There's a story of Abraham Lincoln jumping out a window so he could avoid a vote. This type of stuff has happened a lot. Now, it's a little bit extreme now than it ever has been, but American politics is a lot of hyperbole. The only difference of magnifying it with Trump is because we're in the age of the internet, where you have a college student who made a tweet when he was 16, and now all sorts of shit happens. I'll tell the story in a bit.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely disagree that it's because of a lack of religious people on the left. That's fucking nonsense.
Well, no, this person's comment was, the lack of a shared ideal, a shared understanding type of thing.
Is that people, one, the amount of interpretation you get from Christianity alone is so fucking wild that you can't say that everyone's on the same page about that. But also, people will seek out their community. They'll seek out their own accountability. You know, it's something that's inherent in people to want to be around people. You know, so with that will come a sense of community. Some might have to search a little harder. You know, that's one thing I've always said in favor of religion is it does have this sort of regimented, hey, we're going to meet up every week. We're going to fucking ask you how you're doing. You know, you're going to feel compelled to be honest. And if you're having some troubles, we're here to help. You know, or if you're doing something insane, we're here to kind of say, hey man, what's up? You know, it's something that's very, very needed. And I think that if everybody, you know, acted a little more towards their community and a little less towards the rest of the world, everyone obviously would be a little better off. But the Twitter world, global communication has fucking ruined that. But it's not like you need to get your morals from religion. You know, people are generally good people. It's just
I disagree
the
with
loud
that.
nonsense. And I think a lot of it is reaction from and this is, I'm not saying this is correct or the right thing to do. I'm saying it's the opposite of that. But it's reaction from the Obama era conservatives, the fucking thanks Obama joke that couldn't stop being said by everybody.
Thanks, Obama.
The amount of rhetoric and horseshit that was said, you know, towards him and about his wife and all the horrible fucking things that people were saying that had nothing to do with politics.
So
just because fuck Obama, it's reaction to that on this side, which again.
So I would say this goes back farther than Obama. I would say it was super noticeable after Gore lost the election, and all of a sudden you heard every news media outlet called George Bush. But hold on. Where they would call George Bush, you know, a rube and a dumb hick. It happened.
Yeah, but I think that was still jokes, though.
No, it wasn't. I've known
days where no one was taking it too.
See, this is where I would disagree. I knew quite a lot of people who actually meant it. And George Bush, by the way, George Bush was not as hold on. George Bush was not as smart as his dad. George H.W. Bush was quite an intelligent man. Whether you like the dude or not, he was really smart. George W. Bush was not as smart as his dad. But you started seeing
he's still a wicked fucking smart guy.
Well, you started seeing it ramp up more under when George Bush won. I mean, what I noticed, even the first term, and when 9/11, because that started ramping up because they felt bad, and then, you know, so that's when I think that really started going hardcore. Is it started snowballing under Bush. Then when Obama got elected, it went a little harder because Republicans and conservatives were like, well, you fucked with my president for 8 years. It's time that we get you back. And now the Democrats are doing it back even more so.
I think a lot of that was created in a bubble, honestly, and wasn't so much a reaction to Bush. I think maybe some of it was for sure. We can I'm sure work out a percentage of that. But I think a good majority of it was just created in a bubble. You know, this is not the president we want. You know, whether some of it was kind of overtly or subvertly racist, which definitely earns a percentage. Some of it was just like, oh, this guy is going way too far. You know, Bush to me was kind of business as usual, and people would argue about his politics and call him a dummy and good fun and those kinds of things.
The only problem with
the stuff that was happening to Obama was way worse than calling the guy dumb.
So the only thing the one thing I would say is I would say wrong, and I want to change topics, is if you watch SNL, if you watch the news media, they hammered Bush really hard, and they gave.
But they've always done that.
Yeah, but they didn't do it as much to Obama, and that's the reason why a lot of conservatives were upset, was because SNL played George Bush as a dumb hick, and you got Obama, then all of a sudden he was the savior, and you got Trump, and you roasted Trump. Granted, Trump's his own worst enemy, not a big fan of the tangerine tornado, but that's kind of what happened. Is you saw it happen in the media, and that's one of the reasons a lot of conservatives were mad, because conservatives have talk radio, which still isn't that popular nationwide, and then you got Fox News. I mean, reality speaking far as media-wise, and there's some internet sites and sprinkled out through here, but there's nothing that covers the grand spectrum, like, you know, the corporate media. So that's the only thing I could say is that's what I noticed, is you saw it ramp up from one side to another.
So, but
Yeah, but you definitely get what I'm saying. I think we're on the same page. That it's this volleyball of fucking hate going back and forth. It's not going to stop until somebody just puts the ball down and says, "Okay, guys, look, we got to stop playing this fucking game and get back to arguing about shit that matters."
I don't disagree. Actually, I really agree with you. I don't think it'll happen. I think what's going to happen is it's going to have to be at a point where we have a politician say that the problem is the younger politicians on both sides. Actually, I'll specifically, you have people like AOC who, hey, she's doing what she wants to do. She got elected, totally support that, who I think's on the little extreme end of things, who I don't think are helping. I think what's happening is the internet age has elected people who can't reach for the middle. And I think that's the biggest issue we have.
Yeah, I agree. But also, there's the opposition politics that go on. You almost need both sides to reach for the extreme and then meet in the middle. I'm going to come to you with an extreme idea. You're going to come to me with an extreme idea. We both beat the shit out of those ideas until we whittle it down to the reason.
So this,
hold
on, James. Go.
Okay, so what I want to bring up, all this crap about people making fun of one politician over another politician, or having an issue with any stance on either side. This is an old game.
Oh, 100%.
The first political cartoon appeared in guess whose newspaper?
New York Times.
New York Times?
Nope.
Boston Herald?
Pennsylvania Gazette.
Wouldn't have guessed
May
that.
9th, 1754, by a paper published by guess who? Benjamin Franklin.
First?
Yeah.
Huh.
In his whole thing. So this has been going on since before we even really had our political structure.
I think the difference is the internet, though.
What I want to point out is, yeah, it's evolved over time, but still the harshness of any political cartoon. Now, I've seen some funny-ass ones dating back to the 1980s when I was a little kid, when I could actually read cartoons. And the first one I remember laughing my ass off. Guess who was president?
Reagan?
Bill Clinton.
Oh, yeah.
So I laughed my butt off at the political cartoons about him. But yes, the evolution of the internet has taken it to a different level. But
and
it's still going to happen no matter what.
Fun on the side.
I think
we used to have fun on the side, and then they used to actually talk about politics like adults. And it's like, hey, we're going to talk about shit in this one room, and then we're going to walk into this other room and be serious for a minute.
So there's two
it's
things.
Like everything is a joke now. Everybody's got to have a controversial opinion.
I think the two things is one is the fact I think we live in an era, and I don't know why, that we no longer, it's now no longer allowed to just say, hey, you're an American and I'm an American who's this. Like, there's no identity anymore other than your politics. And I think that's right. Part of the issue is the fact that instead of being, hey, I'm an American of Jewish descent, or I'm an American of African American descent, I'm a Democrat who's African American, who's gay, who's
fine as long as you're not.
Amish. Your identity of being an American is like the 12th thing from the bottom, and I think that causes an issue. Because when you don't have an overarching thing that unites us all, then everybody's going to look for the small things everybody's going to join their tribe, and not in a good way.
And that's the terrible thing is that, the individual differences are so vast, compared to how we are as like what one would consider a tribe. And it's very arbitrary what somebody chooses to identify with, whether it's,
cannibals.
I've got 9 different versions of white to choose from, I suppose, if I wanted to identify as Irish or English or whatever, or even as American or Southern Californian or a Los Angelino or some shit like that. It's my individual difference that makes me
Mexican American
is more than anything that I can identify with, anything that I can call as my identity. And with the old saying, I'm 1,000 different things to 1,000 different people.
I just say, when people ask me what am I just say I'm an American mutt. That's it.
My friend who's commented, she's commented on a number of things that we've done, and I've read her on the podcast a number of times. She always had a comment to me that people need something to be a part of. So identifying as a group is whether you're a gay person or you're black or you're white or purple, that people need that. And I've always disagreed on her on the level of, you got to be an American, and she, you know, she always had some good arguments against, you know, hey, that, but I still think it comes up, if I can say, hey, I'm an American, then no matter what, we'll be fine. But the other thing I think it is, and I think is the modern lie, is that I have to agree with everything. And I understand how that seems a little harsh, and I understand how that has potential to be negative. But if and this, by the way, this example I'm about to give is super extreme, so keep that in mind. Is the fact, say if somebody's gay and somebody doesn't agree with a person being gay, the gay person should not expect to be accepted by this person. Now, what the gay person should be expecting is to be treated like a person, not to be hurt, injured, etc., because of their sexuality, because that's violating their rights. That's violating everything that's right. But because the person's gay, they should not expect the person to accept it. I think that's the one thing that we have in modern society, is we expect everything to be expected. There's a lot of stuff people don't like about me and James and Ryan and everybody we know, and nobody I know expects everybody to like 100%. I think that's one of the issues, is the fact that we need to learn to love the things about people that we like and learn to tolerate the things we dislike. Because I think that creates better people.
And learn to try to accept a different point of view, even if you can't necessarily understand where it's coming from.
You mean,
understand that you're in the position that you don't understand.
Or like to agree to disagree type of thing?
Being an American, kind of an agree to disagree type of thing. People tend to down their view of what they feel an American should be. Oh, the right thinking American, or he's a good American. My only criteria, believe wholeheartedly in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, and agree that those should be. That's basically it.
Can you repeat
defended to the death?
Can you repeat the last part you dropped?
Defending.
Oh, sure. Just believe in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, and defend it at all costs. If we can all agree on that hey, you know what, that gives us the right to be who you are, and for me to disagree with you, and for you to feel safe that I disagree with you.
That's the thing.
That's what it's all about.
But that's the thing. People want to be right. So if you disagree with them, that's telling them that they aren't right in what they believe. Now, is that the correct mindset? No. My mindset has always been, you do your shit, leave me the hell out of it, and if I want to join you, I'll let you know.
So my friend who I brung up in the earlier in part of this conversation, like her and I literally don't think there's anything that we can actually agree on. We are as politically different as you can actually get. But we've come to the deciding point over the years that, we still love each other. You got to agree to disagree and leave it at that. And we'll both defend our opinions to the death. But at the end of it, we can say, hey, we're still friends. Everything's good. Because I've apologized a few times. Like, I'm sorry, you got me a little hot. And she's done the same thing. And I think that's the thing that we're missing, is the fact that even if somebody gets you hot and you pop, you got to at least come and say, hey, I'm sorry. And I do think, far as some of the people, that they have a right to not accept dislike, because some of those groups of people have been unnecessarily targeted.
All right. But the thing that I think a lot of people have issues with, and this is where I've come to, and I've said this to people, and I've brought this up, and I've noticed that it's not a very easy thing to do.
To what?
I can let you be wrong, and I can let you believe that you're right for as long as you want.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that a lot of people can't do is let somebody else be wrong. Now, I'll tell them that they are, But after I tell them that one time, I'm not going to sit there and waste my time arguing with somebody because they're convinced something else.
Are you talking
like
about
the-
like facts, like the sky is
I've got
blue
a
type
fucking
of
hard
thing?
time with that sometimes.
Or what
It can
exactly?
be a political thing. It can be science. It could be math. It could be anything. But I'm okay letting people think they're wrong. If it's going to be detrimental to me and myself or anybody I care about, I'll work a little bit harder to convince them otherwise. Other than that, I'm okay with people being wrong. I don't need to correct you. You'll figure it out one day or you'll die.
No, I don't actually disagree.
But
I
that's
think,
the thing is, like, that's part of the reason I stay off Facebook, is because I got sick and tired of arguing with people over minute points that have no bearing on your situation or your life.
well, see, this is why, like on Facebook,
And I just kind of got sick of it.
this is why on Facebook I don't really engage in conversations like that. I'll do it on Reddit occasionally. But no, I like that. I like, I think that's a good point. It's the fact that you got to learn how to just let things go.
Yeah.
I think that's spot on.
But I do have a lot of fun sometimes torturing people with that. I mean, John Matajastic, like, that was hilarious. But
because
now,
he was
I guess I
feeding
probably shouldn't have used his full name, but if
you were feeding the troll, or he was feeding the troll.
yeah, and I mean, it was just to the point that I was getting bored with it. So I'm glad he finally blocked me, but I would have kept going. But now that's the thing. It's like, I could sit there and argue with this guy day and night on end because he was convinced that his opinion was right. When I'm just telling him, you have an idiotic opinion that is not pointing to any facts.
I will
And
say,
that's what it came down to. That's why I told him at that point, I said, Michelle Obama is a man, prove me wrong. Because of the fact that his point was so stupid that there was no basis for it. He couldn't prove anything. And that was what it came down to. I was finally at the point, you could be wrong.
I tried to argue basically to the point where if I feel like I have information that you don't, I will try to relay that information to you. And if that person then wants to dig their heels in, then fine. Then okay. Like, obviously, or if you have a retort like, oh, okay, I accept this information. We can talk about where that information came from or what have you, or how I came to a particular conclusion, beyond that. Or if you have information that pertains to that information or information that I don't have. That's how it should generally go. But like James says, it gets bogged down in the unnecessary details, and people start looking at you like because you are who you are, your opinion or your facts don't mean anything or something. Or
I would also say that maybe because some people are too emotionally attached to it. There was a girl one point in
that's
time.
the thing, Matt, is that
Well,
people fucking just attach shit to themselves so hardcore.
Well, I have the perfect example. This person was, and my apologies, this is a little bit of, this is not a nice thing to say particularly, but this particular chick was an emotional Democrat. And it usually does not turn out well from my experience. And so it happened after a shooting, and her comment, if I remember this correctly, she said, you shouldn't say that, and my comment was the fact that guns don't really kill by themselves. And it's an old argument.
Lead and gunpowder.
Yeah, but it was the old argument about how it's the heart of the person that pulls the trigger. Otherwise, it's just like a shovel sitting in a shed somewhere. Not particularly useful. And she blocked me, got upset, yada yada. And it's just like, look, I'm stating facts here, but it's also, the other thing is there's emotions tied into it, and there's also a worldview difference. Is the other thing I think we got to figure out how to unite. Is the gun debate is a perfect debate. Most conservatives will say it's the heart of the person that matters. It's the heart of the person who pulls the trigger. Usually the other side, being the Democrats, will usually say something. It's a tool for war that's easy to mass kill somebody. Doesn't matter if it's the person who pulls the trigger. it'll happen. And I think
so is the slingshot.
yes, but I think what happened is the fact we got to figure out how to at some point in time unite or come to an understanding in those two worldviews. And I think what Ryan said is a perfect example of the fact you got to figure out how to meet in the middle and not be so hyperbolic, because as a gun guy, at least in California, I've lost more rights than I've gained in the state of California. And that's one of the reasons, if you ask most gun people in the California, they'll tell you I'm fighting tooth and nail for everything I have left. And then you have Democrats go, well, you need to give more. And it's going to come up to be like that debate on everything that's political if people don't learn to come to some sort of middle.
Okay, well,
yeah, well, and then a lot of people who identify with the particular party feel like it's almost blasphemous to go against the thoughts of that party. You know, when it comes to, let's say, something as hotbed as gun control, you know, Democrats and Republicans, you know, get a little bit, you know, rhetorical about everything.
Yeah.
You know, and it's all, a lot of it, especially on the fringes of people who just don't know what the fuck they're talking about on both sides, who just kind of get into those talking points they've heard, and they feel like they need to defend that side, not having any information, just saying, oh, no, you're wrong because my particular media told me so.
Well, on the particular gun debate, I know very few conservatives that don't own at least one firearm. I don't know a whole lot of Democrats that have even touched one. And that's what I say. It's a worldview difference. And I think that's something that we have to figure out as a country and a society. How do we actually solve that?
Okay, Brian brought up a good point, is that there's a lot of people that feel like they can't break away from whatever the rhetoric their political party is telling them.
I would say, though, it's also because the society, the group of people they're around doesn't help.
And what I think we've lost...
Yeah, your community, your neighbors.
And what I think we've lost is this one little point. I'm sure you guys have all heard this saying before, but what I'm going to put out first is one of my favorite quotes from a movie is, you got to have an opinion. And that's really what I want people to realize, because you guys have probably heard this saying before. An opinion is like an asshole.
Nope, never heard
Everybody
it before.
has one, but not everybody wants to hear yours. And that's what I want people to realize is form your own opinion. Don't just
and also
go
realize
by the
that
rhetoric.
Your opinion is not sacred, and you're not above being offended by somebody who calls your opinion dog shit.
Exactly. And that's the other thing. That's why I like both those sayings, is because I want somebody to think for themselves. When they start coming back with, oh, it's a fully automatic weapon, only military should have access to those because you don't go out shooting with a fully automatic weapon. If a goddamn bear is charging me, I really hope I have a fully automatic weapon.
I swear that I saw a news article about that, and the picture they showed was of a revolver.
Yeah, you're fucked.
No, it was a fully automatic revolver.
Oh, okay. But
yeah,
wait,
imagine
what?
if it's cold, like really cold, and your finger really doesn't want to fucking pull that fast.
Yeah, exactly. But I tell you what,
I'd like to be able to kind of hold that shit down.
Yeah, because I'm literally shitting myself as this bear's charging me. And I sure as hell know no 22 round on any fully automatic weapon is going to stop that bear.
There is one side of my fellow people, being the gun people, that I wish they could control it a little bit. I've known quite a bit of superheroes in my life. You know, you have these guys going...
You've met Batman?
You know, a lot of these people who will like...
Why didn't I get invited to beat Batman?
He doesn't like you.
No, that's just the dick.
It's the Red Hood. So there's a lot of people. Now, isn't that a double entendre? There's I've known a number of people that are gung-ho about self-protection. And I'm the first person to tell you that if I have no choice, if you come between my loved ones and me, and I have to, I will. But I've known a lot of people who put themselves out there way too much, far as, oh, somebody's crossing my line, I'm gonna shoot them. Like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Like, they're too they're too hardcore into it. Like, some states have castle doctrine states. Those are the first people I know who are like, somebody enters my house, I'm gonna shoot them. It's like, there are avenues to exit. You know, and I think that's the one thing is a super pro gun guy is I think some of these people need to hamper their idealism with reality. You should not go killing every intruder who enters your house unless there's a good reason.
Unless it's Santa.
Unless there's a good, he's creepy.
I'm shooting that motherfucker.
And unless, because you permanently get coal, you know, unless there's a good reason to do so. And I think that is something that my fellow gun people need to control that urge, you know, and I've had people freak out at me cause I've said point blankly, if I have no choice, if every avenue of escape and a means to extricate my loved ones from a situation, and if I have some way of protecting them, I will. But that's if every check mark has been checked. That's exit, escape.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. The way I kind of view that one is kind of a version of that. But there's, let's say, a percentage that you're gonna kind of figure this in the moment. You know, it's gonna be field percentage, if you will. Someone breaks into your house and you with ill intent. You know what I mean? Either to rob, or if they are robbing and see you, probably kill you or harm your family, something like that. Okay. If I assign the odds of me being able to take out that threat via shooting them, an odds of success, thus an odds of safety, for myself and family, and the odds of any of my other options are even 1% lower than that, that guy's going to get shot.
Well, no, I actually don't. I 100% agree. The only issue is the state of California doesn't agree. It doesn't agree, and the state of California.
No, yeah, for sure. And look, I agree with like, hey man, look, if you have an opportunity to get yourself away from a dangerous situation, you really should, have an obligation to do so, and not walk voluntarily into a fucking gunfight.
And that's the other thing is, excuse me, Joe Rogan has said this a couple times. I've actually heard Jay Leno say it, is people have a tendency to overestimate their abilities. Everybody thinks they're John Wayne or the man with no name. In reality, you're all fucking Gomer Pyle.
Yeah, in reality, everyone's easy to kill.
And I think that's the issue, is the fact that there's a disconnect between that moment, and every military person I've ever known has always come down to the only heroes they have ever met are the ones that are in the ground.
Yep.
And so everybody wants to be a hero. And for me, I've always been like, all I want to do is get my family, my friends, my loved ones to safety, and preferably without having to hurt anybody. Because I'm as legitimately anti-violence as one can get without being ridiculous.
So,
yeah, well, like I've always said, is I've raped and killed everybody that I've ever wanted to already, which is precisely 0 people. So yeah, if I had to shoot somebody one day, even if it was in an act of self-defense, I guarantee you I throw up and sit down for quite some time and fucking shake in a corner.
Yeah. Now I've had people ask me the question of why would I ever want a gun in my house? And it's not just the fact of defending people, my family, myself. It's the fact that police only show up after a crime's committed.
When seconds count, police are minutes away.
I don't even want to use that saying when I'm talking to people, because even saying that saying will shut them down.
Mm-hmm.
But what I tell them, because they're always like, oh, you can call the cops. And I'm like, okay, but the cops are only going to show up after a crime has been committed.
And sometimes like quite a while, some, I've heard in Detroit in some areas, it can be up to an hour after you call 911 or more.
Yeah. And I told these people, because they're just like, well, that's what police are there to protect you. No, police are there to enforce the law. They are not, they do not have any jurisdiction to come into my house. Even if they see somebody crawling through the window, they really don't have jurisdiction there until a crime is committed. Well, because they don't know if that person climbing through the window is me owning the house.
Technically, they would, if they
saw
it,
they would investigate.
Yeah,
they're not there to.
Yeah, they would investigate. They'd start popping some flashlights and be like, "Hey, what's going on here, buddy?"
But I mean, that's the thing, is like they have to find out if a crime has been committed.
Yeah.
They're not going to show up guns drawn.
Yeah, right. But there's nothing wrong with me sitting behind my fucking bedroom door with a Bluetooth in one ear and a 45 in my hand.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing is like, I would like to
hey,
have
guys, please get here quick.
some amount of protecting myself and my family. If
Right.
I'm in a situation where, let's say that my phone is in the living room, my family are all in their bedrooms, somebody kicks the door in. I'm not going for my phone to call 911.
Yeah.
I'm pulling a gun and saying, hey, hold on.
And
That's
the most
where I'm
scary
at.
feeling I can imagine is that scenario, and I have to reach for like fucking gardening shears.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna die right now.
and I do want everybody who's listening to this who thinks we're being hyperbolic or a little ridiculous is this is something, and I strongly believe this is gun owners or as a gun enthusiast, this is something that you at least have to think about is the what if scenarios. And as a homeowner, I think you should, even if you don't like guns, what are you going to do? Are you going to bring a Louisville Slugger that is still murdered technically if you hit somebody and they're breaking your house and you're not technically in danger? That's still murder in the state of California.
Yeah.
So
I'm just going to offer him a glass of bleach.
So that what if scenario.
Also real easy to kill somebody with a Louisville Slugger. You hit them in the head, they hit their head on the ground. They're probably going to die.
A good friend of ours was diabetic, and he said, if somebody breaks into my house, I'm just got to fucking stab them with that. It's like, oh, that's cruel. So I do think this is something that everybody should think about at some level who's a firearm owner and be somewhat resolute of, if I have to, I will. But I think
and I agree with you, John. I don't like the guys who are walking around like I wish a motherfucker would break into my house, or I'm gonna walk around with a concealed carry and just fucking eyeball everybody who looks the least bit shady.
I hate that.
I mean, there's something to be said for tactical awareness.
Well,
but also just like, hey man, quick profile. Okay, I'm gonna make sure I know that guy's over there in the corner of this 7-Eleven.
Well, it's
move about your fucking day.
Because from my personal experience, those who go looking for trouble eventually find it, and it's the person who's tactically aware. So if somebody's CCWing, which is carried concealed weapons, if somebody has a permit and legally do that, as long as they're aware of their surroundings. But by the way, you should always be somewhat aware of your surroundings. The person's going to realize, okay, in California, there's a lot of training you have to do. There's some rules behind it. And some of those rules are, you're not a cop. You try to become a cop,
right.
Your ass gets guarded by cops. So that is, you have to have some tactical awareness and understanding of your situation. A lot of those people who want to be John Wayne, they don't care, and they think they have carte blanche to do whatever they want, and those fucking people piss me off.
They're gonna insert themselves into situations, to be the good guy, and then they escalate the situation just by their presence alone. I mean, these things obviously happen. God,
who was that guy? There was this Hispanic gentleman who everybody said he was white. He was like the neighborhood watch captain, ended up killing a guy for walking home type of.
I don't remember his name.
Oh, the Zimmerman case.
Yes, Zimmerman. He was one of those guys. No, I have no idea if what he did was right or wrong because I don't remember. But that dude was one of those cowboy motherfuckers. We're like, I'm going to do this. It's like, dude, that's not your job.
Yeah.
There's people who get paid a little bit more money.
Most of these people that you're talking about have
the neighborhood watch sign a little bit too hardcore.
Yeah, they have the keep honking, I'm reloading, or this is my peace sign bumper stickers. Those are those same people that I could see doing that. Being like, oh, that lady over there looks like she's in distress. Let me go shoot the guy. That is bothering her. Twice. 3 times.
Or just get into a situation that they didn't need to be in, and then they get themselves into, let's say, a fist fight.
Yeah.
Well, they always,
and then they get scared because they're a pussy, and then pull a gun and shoot somebody.
Well, I would say it's instead of coming into a situation with an idea to try to resolve things peacefully, they go in, like an Iowa class battleship and guns blazing, and instead of coming into it differently. And that's part of the mindset problem is if you're a particular person who wants to intercede into, okay, so here's a scenario. Say you're outside of you go to a 7-Eleven, guy's beating the living shit out of his girlfriend or wife, like really stumping a mud hole in her ass. Some guys would go up and say, hey, can I help you? Is anything, would come up.
She needs more stomping, sir.
Right? Would come up with a way
to help you?
Well, try to do something that you would.
You meant to the lady. I'm sorry.
You would try to come into a way to reduce the conflict. You would do something, And then there's the other guys that would come in, would like freeze motherfucker, and like it's a Tarantino movie. And I think the person who tries to come in a peaceful resolution, I think is I actually think the smarter situation that would be called the fucking cops.
Obviously, if you reasonably believe that the next time he slams this person's head against the ground, that person could die, then obviously you have a right, and some would say an obligation to fucking do something if you can.
Yeah, you'd have to do.
What I was talking about, like is almost the situation. You're at a bar, you walk outside, there's a couple of guys that start getting into a scuffle. If I don't have a gun on me, let's say, I might walk up and be like, hey guys, let's break it up. Let me say, hey, if I'm with a buddy, hey, you go grab this guy, I'll grab this guy, we'll separate them real quick. If I, let's say, got a concealed carry on me, which I probably wouldn't be a club, but just happen to witness that circumstance, and my buddy was like, hey, let's go break it up. I'm going to be like, hey, bro, I got a gun on me. How about you go break it up? I'll fucking stand back here.
So last
thing I need is to get into a scuffle, drop my gun, or somebody else grab it, any of those sort of, variables.
So
you have to be aware of like, all right, this is not my time to step in with my particular tool set.
So a word of advice, you just committed a felony by bringing that gun into a bar.
You said outside the club.
I said if I was at a club, I wouldn't have been probably carrying a gun. But if I just witnessed that circumstance,
okay,
walking by the bar,
carrying a drink in your hand.
Walking by the bar, I happen to have a concealed carry, and there was a fight. I'd be like, all right, I'm not breaking this one up. How about you guys do something? I'll stand back here.
I
give him the breathalyzer.
I think the key word is what we're saying is, if you're going to be that type of person, don't be a superhero. Don't be a hero.
Don't be a douchebag.
You're not a cop. And
You're not a cop. You're not a cop.
And by the way, I fucking hate those type of cops too. I'm not a big fan of super cops. They have a tendency to piss me off because they're usually the first person to shoot first and then realize they just fucked up.
Well, Brian probably remembers when we were driving around.
So many of those.
Driving around Southern California. What was one of the things I told you about people speeding up right on your ass? Get out of the way. Let them go. Yeah, and part of it.
Find the cops for me.
Yeah. Well, part of that also was, the thing of you don't have to control this douchebag's speed.
No, let him go.
You're not a cop. He wants to go, and then he becomes your mind finder. But the initial thing was,
he becomes your mind finder.
Exactly. But the initial thing was, you don't have to police this person. That's not your job.
Yeah.
So
you know what? I got read the riot act by my grandfather one day down just the main boulevard that everybody usually speeds down.
Oh.
And guy, I see him splitting in and out of cars all over the place, coming up a mile behind me, and so I paralleled the guy next to me and was kind of looking in my rearview mirror, giggling. I was driving my grandfather like Home Depot or something, and he sees me like staring in the mirror, laughing. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, this asshole behind me." By then, he was like right up on my ass, washing back and forth like NASCAR, like trying to get me to get out of the way. He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, this asshole was coming up behind me and he was speeding, so I decided to just kind of block him right here." And he's like, "Don't do that." I'm like, "What?" He's like, you don't know this guy. It's not up to you to stop him from where he's going. You don't know why he's going that fast, what he's on his way to, what his motivations are. He'd be trying to get to his kid's school because there was some horrific injury or something." I'm like, "God damn it, you're right." And I pulled off, let him. And it's like, you don't know what that person is doing at the moment. Yeah. Trying to get into it or police the road is a good way to get yourself fucking shot in the first place.
Yeah.
So I mean, so after this, you want to go sit by the fire and sing Kumbaya?
No.
Sure.
So at the end, because we are definitely over time. Brian, are you there?
Yeah, he's there.
Mm-hmm.
So, any closing statements?
No. Good idea, bad idea.
So, I think Abraham Lincoln said it perfectly next to Bill S. Preston Esquire and Ted Theodore Logan. Be excellent to each other. And as always, thank you for listening.
Goodbye.